Hi, some very lovely people asked me to review a couple of books. I picked The Odyssey because it had a big impact on me as a child. I read it again later as an adult. It was a little different. And also Michener's Hawaii had a big impact on me at an early age. Uh, the Odyssey, I was 9 years old. I wanted to do this Herculean effort of reading something intellectual, and you know how you get at 9 years old. And to be honest, I could hardly understand the thing when I started. And I remember I flipped through and I got to a part about a whirlpool. Very interesting. And I excited about it. He pulls himself out with an olive tree. I didn't even know what an olive tree was at the time. What a story. I mean, what a thing for a 9 year old. Once you get into it wasn't specifically written for a child, but once you get into the language of it, you start understanding it's a little work at that age. But uh, they're cyclops, nymphs. Circe turns his men into pigs. He saves everybody from the cyclops, and he comes home, and there are 100 guys hanging out trying to date his wife, and he shoots an arrow through axe heads and runs everybody off. And very, very exciting thing to read. I mean, that was like Star Wars back then to me at that time. The story itself is very ancient. It was conveyed orally by Homer, probably composed about 600 years before him. They didn't write; those guys didn't write back then. It was maybe 500 years later that it actually got 600 years later it got written into a language. They're pretty sure that it's basically a true story about a true event, at least. You know, sailors are always famous for embroidering their stories a little bit. The story itself, now as an adult, I read it as the historical content was interesting, and I realized the chronology was mixed. I didn't really notice that when I read that as a child, but it's not linear. Reminds me a little bit of Kurt Vonnegut's Slaughterhouse-Five, which was the first thing I read that really gave me time jump things to think about. But anyway, it was an excellent book. It was very exciting. I think it's 3,000-year-old story that's gotten handed down to us. It's interesting, worth reading. Michener, I read his Hawaii. It was the first one of his I read. The vast scale and the world view uh, changed my perspective on a lot of things. It went from Hawaii as a volcano coming out of the ocean, the ways of people from Polynesia, the ways, and then from Europe and America, and then from China, and then Japan, and very, very interesting. A lot of sociology in there to look at. After that, I read The Source, learned about the Middle East, went back and read Rascals in Paradise, more about the people coming to Hawaii, Middle America, Centennial, Poland. I think that was an important thing. I got very excited about it after I read it. So that excitement led me into a lot more reading, and I read all of it. Anyway, I would recommend those books. I may go back and I might be time to go back and read Hawaii yet again. So anyway, thanks for the opportunity to do this.